James Bond's latest move, No Time to Die, starring Daniel Craig in the role of James Bond. He is the fifth actor to portray the iconic character. In the movie, James Bond, who was enjoying his retired life, is forced to join the CIA again after taking a leave from them. The movie starts with Safine, a villain, wearing a mask and seeking revenge on Madeleine and her mother. Safine's family was killed by Madeleine's father, and he has come to avenge their deaths. When Safine arrives at Madeleine's house, he kills her mother, but Madeleine manages to escape and hides. Unfortunately, a phone rings, revealing Madeleine's presence to Safine. As Safine tries to kill Madeleine, she fights back by using a gun from her father's cupboard, injuring Safine and causing his mask to break. Madeleine seizes the opportunity to flee and runs across an icy area, which breaks and she falls beneath the ice. Safine also reaches there but decides not to kill Madeleine due to her innocence. Madeleine survives and escapes. The movie then jumps ahead a few years, where we see Madeleine enjoying her time with James Bond in Jamaica. The next day, they visit Vesper Elvindi's grave in Italy. James Bond expresses his remorse and forgiveness by burning a page with the word "forgive" written on it, as he had not previously apologized for a mistake he made when Vesper was alive. During their visit, a bomb blast occurs, injuring Bond. He believes Madeleine is responsible and tries to call her, but the call doesn't connect. Bond manages to escape the attackers and reveals the name of the man responsible for the attack to the people who rescued him. He also performs a stunt on a bike. Bond arrives at a hotel, but Madeleine is not staying there. He eventually finds her and confronts her. She denies knowing how anyone could have found them, but Bond forces her into a car and drives away. Meanwhile, Madeleine receives a call from Blofeld, who tells her that her sacrifice will be their pride, but Madeleine is confused and doesn't understand what is happening. She asks Bond to trust her, but it is difficult for him to trust her completely. Soon after, Spectre and their henchmen attack Bond's car, not realizing it is equipped with weapons. Bond fights back, and after eliminating the attackers, he sends Madeleine to another country for her safety, telling her they won't meet again. The scene shifts to a laboratory where biological weapons are being developed. Safine, who had been collaborating with MI6, instructs Dr. Waldo to hand over everything they need. The weapons include nanoweapons that Dr. Waldo had developed in collaboration with MI6. Dr. Waldo transfers the files to a pen drive and swallows it. He then triggers a system crash and starts a fire in the laboratory. Safine orders Dr. Waldo to open a level 4 biosecurity fridge, which contains Heracles, a nanoweapon. Dr. Waldo agrees but demands another scientist. Safine brings in Spectre, and after obtaining the nanoweapon, Safine kills the other doctor and escapes, causing an explosion in the laboratory. The scene shifts to MI6 office, where Naomi Harris and Bill Tanner discuss Project Heracles. Bill Tanner tries to inform the Prime Minister about the laboratory incident, but he is stopped. James Bond, codenamed 007, arrives on a yacht for a sea voyage. He then heads to a city in Jamaica, where he meets with his contact, Phillips. However, his car breaks down or is sabotaged by Naomi, a member of MI6 with the code name 007. Naomi gives Bond a lift, takes him to her home, and reveals her identity as a member of MI6. Naomi informs Bond that she is a member of MI6 and that his code name, 007, was reassigned after his retirement. They plan to meet Bill Tanner to inquire about Blofeld. Bond calls Tanner, but Tanner's bodyguard refuses to connect him to Blofeld. Bond cuts the call short and asks Naomi for assistance in finding a secret location where they can talk. However, Bond is actually going to the same location where he had previously spoken to Q about nano weapons. When they reach the location, Bond's car malfunctions or is sabotaged, and Nomi offers him a lift. She takes him to her house, where Bond realizes that Nomi is also a member of MI6. Nomi's secret codename is 007, which used to be Bond's codename. However, after his retirement, the codename was reassigned to her. Bond refuses to disclose any information about himself or the situation. Nomi informs Bond about Bill Tanner and suggests contacting him. Bond calls Tanner and insists on speaking to Blofeld, but Tanner claims that Blofeld only speaks to his secretary. Bond cuts the call short. Bond contacts Phillips and informs him that he is on their side. Phillips reveals a secret location in Santiago, where they can meet and discuss. Bond agrees and travels to Santiago, where he meets Phillips. From there, they travel to a secret location where they can talk about the nano weapons. Bond manages to escape from Logan Ash and proceeds to MI6 office, where he meets Bill Tanner, his old friend and coworker. Bill Tanner expresses his happiness at seeing Bond alive but questions his involvement with the CIA. Bond explains that he survived an attempt on his life in Cuba and eliminated Spectre's men with the same weapon that Logan Ash had intended to use against him. Bond then requests MS help, who agrees on the condition that he meets with Blofeld. Bill Tanner disagrees and refuses to allow Bond to meet Blofeld, but Bond leaves anyway. Meanwhile, Madeleine visits the hospital where Safin is being kept. They have a conversation where they recall a childhood incident. Madeleine is unaware that Safin is the one who killed her mother. Safin gives her a box containing his broken mask, which he wore when he attacked her. Madeleine is confused about his motives. Bond reaches Belmarsh to meet Blofeld. Blofeld refuses to provide any information about Heracles, and Bond kills him in frustration. Turner becomes angry at Bond for not following instructions, as he was only supposed to gather information from Blofeld. Bond remains silent when Nomi asks about Madeleine. He leaves and visits Q, who retrieves information from the pen drive. Initially reluctant, Q eventually reveals that it contains a database with DNA information and hidden files. Bond asks Q about a specific hidden file, which contains DNA information of deceased Spectre members. Turner instructs Q to investigate Blofeld's electronic eye. Q gives Bond a watch with a signal tracker and additional devices to assist him. Bond sets out on his mission and arrives on an island where Sifan is present. Meanwhile, Madeleine and her daughter are kidnapped by Logan Ash and his men. Bond fights Logan Ash and his men, and rescued to them at Safer Palace, and again back to do his mission to save their country he is able to save, but he lost his life. Coworker learn of Bond's supposed death, leaving them disheartened. Madeleine moves to a new city with her daughter. Thank you. Please do comment, like and subscribe this channel. Thank you.